Welcome food fans, picky eaters, the flavor curious, and everyone in between. Nothing makes good food better than good conversation. And your table is ready. Come right this way to the Food for Thoughtcast with your host, Melissa Reagan. But you can call her Chef. All right, let's get this episode started.
Hey there, food fans. Welcome back to the Food for Thoughtcast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan. Thank you for listening. And as always, you can call me Chef. This is part 2 of the breakfast episode. But today we're talking about brunch, a breakfastential crisis, with our good friend of the show, frequent co-host, Chef Steven Gonzalez. What's up, buddy?
Hola, hola.
What's going on with you?
Oh, loving food, having fun with it, and just cooking just about every day,
All right. So what was the most amazing thing that you ate this week?
You know what? I actually made a pastrami a week or so ago. And what I did was I got some poppers, unrolled the bacon, stuffed them with pastrami, and then smoked them and air fried them. And holy cow, were they good.
Did you already eat all of them?
Yes, they are long gone.
I was going to say, how long will it take me to drive there?
About 5 hours.
Yes.
They did not last. They did not even last 50 minutes. They were gone. Fast.
So jalapeno with tri-tip beef pastrami on the inside, wrapped in bacon. Anything else on the inside?
Just cream cheese, yeah. Cream cheese and pastrami, tri-tip.
Did you dip them in anything?
I got 3 different sauces. A friend of mine gave me a bottle of Gates barbecue sauce from Kansas City, which I use on everything.
Nice.
Let's see. I also did a couple of different Korean barbecue sauces, honey garlic, molasses, barbecue sauce. So yeah, they were good.
Nice. All right. Well, in the breakfast episode, I talked about breakfast for dinner, which brings us to another question. That would be brunch. Is that breakfast for lunch? Or what actually makes brunch brunch? Is it the time of day that you eat it? Or is it the type of food that it is? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a total package. It's a later breakfast before lunch, because if you think about it, you have eggs, you have waffles, but you also have lunch type of dishes as well. But then it's the camaraderie. Usually it's for us people who work all the time. It's on a Sunday, maybe a Saturday. The drinks, the cocktails that come with it. I think it is a total package, and it is one of my favorite meals. One of my favorite times to eat and just catch up with friends, have a good mimosa or Bloody Mary or something, and then a killer breakfast meal.
Right.
I say meal because it's not breakfast, but it's not lunch. It's brunch.
It's brunch. So you said it happens later before lunch. So on a day where you're eating brunch, are you only eating 2 meals, brunch and dinner?
It all depends on how hungry I am throughout that day, how busy I am, and how active I am,
Yeah, I stumped him. That's that hard-hitting journalism.
Right. I try to eat my 3 meals a day, but, I'll still have if I know I'm going to go for brunch, I'll have a very light breakfast, and then I'll save up for brunch, and then dinner's usually kind of light because I go all out for brunch.
Right on. Well, I did ask the listeners what their go-to brunch was, and I've got a couple different responses. So on the previous breakfast post, Sandra from Hippos and Hash Browns here in Dallas says that biscuits and sausage gravy was her favorite breakfast, but that they always had Waffle Wednesday dinner in the past. And so I think that's kind of what prompts this question, right? Is it what you eat or the time that you eat it? And then my Aunt Rebecca says egg and sausage casserole, cinnamon rolls, and fruit. And I think both of those things are brunch or breakfast for dinner, right? And so it's like, well, now you kind of have to consider what is the actual definition. So, like you said, it's not breakfast, it's not lunch, but it's brunch. So, of course, the word brunch was actually coined in Britain in 1895. The idea being that they could increase happiness and decrease stress by preventing people from having to wake up so early on Sundays. So that would be, in theory, the people that were partying hard on Saturday nights.
Even back then, they partied hard. I like it.
Even back then, they
Some things
partied
never
hard. We
change.
didn't. Yeah, we didn't invent it. Yeah, some things never change for sure. Merriam-Webster says a meal that's taken late in the morning that combines late breakfast with lunch. And then the Oxford Dictionary says it's a late morning meal eaten in place of breakfast or lunch. So that was my question to you, right? Like if you're eating brunch, it counts as one meal, but are you supplementing it with two other meals? And I guess, like you said, it depends on what you've got going on that day. A few other blogs and websites I looked at were nothing official, but people seemed to believe that brunch was specific to the weekends and needed to take place between 9 and noon. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that's a little too early. I think brunch typically would be good between 10 and 2. That's my thought. And I for dinner, because that's just breakfast for dinner, in my opinion. Not saying that it's not a good idea, because breakfast any time of day is a good idea, you know? But yeah, I think that 9 to noon is just a little too early for brunch. Breakfast is typically at like anywhere between 7 and 10 for me, you know? So that therefore brunch takes that next 4-hour slot.
Yeah, I mean, I think all these things are totally valid. And then you can flip it on its head and look at it from the other direction of people who are working shift work, right? Like, for example, I didn't have to be at work until 3 p.m. yesterday, so I ate breakfast at noon. Because it's cheaper, right? I didn't have to eat 2 meals before I went into work. And B, because I love breakfast any time of the day except for right after I wake up. I don't know what it is, but I want breakfast foods at any other time of the day, which is probably why I'm a fan of breaking my fast with things like cold pizza or leftovers, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think as soon as I wake up, you got to have your coffee, and then I could probably wait about an hour or so before I get hungry for actual food, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely different for everybody. One of the things that I enjoy about brunch is that it's a slower meal. I feel like breakfast is in a hurry, unless it's on a weekend or whatever your weekend is for whatever job you do, right? But I feel like brunch is an event. It's an affair.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's that, like I was saying, it's that time where you get to hang out with your favorite people, catch up, you know, from the previous week, and just shoot the breeze. Have fun, you know?
Yeah. And a few other listener submissions we had as well were quiche and then breakfast style burgers. So, I mean, I guess that could be like the crazy, like the Bloody Mary ketchup on the Krispy Kreme donut, fried egg burger type situation. Or it could be just like putting an egg on a burger, or maybe a different kind of burger. But I think it's definitely, I think the type of food that gets defined as brunch definitely like plays into that, getting to catch up with people and spend time. I think we spend more time eating it. It happens later in the day. You know, we make plans around it, whereas breakfast is kind of like maybe what you can manage to do before you're off to start your day. What do you think?
I think I fully agree with you. Everything that you just said, you know, it's one of those things where during your normal routine of you got to get up, you got to go to work, things like that, like there's really nothing that makes it special. But brunch, what makes it special is it's a different type of cuisine. You know, there's all sorts of different offerings, and it's just something that you can enjoy once a week, maybe twice a week if you're lucky, and really just remove yourself from, you know, everyday reality and just have a good meal that just cheers you up.
Right. So do you have anything that's your favorite? Like, let's say that you're going to make brunch at home and you're having people over. Like, what are you doing? Is it a theme? Is it always the same stuff? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, if I have people over for brunch, I usually do like a some sort of hash, things like that. My favorite brunch item is eggs Benedict. I just love the
Mm-hmm.
hollandaise. I love the total package, the eggs, everything. For me, that's brunch. But if I'm having people over, I'm not going to poach a ton of eggs and make a bunch of individual Benedicts. So I don't know. It all just depends on what time of year it is. Is it really hot outside? Is it cool outside? There's a lot of different factors that play into it. So for me, like I said, it's easier for me to make like some sort of hash. I could definitely see a quiche going over very well. Yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can make.
Yeah, I mean, I think that eggs need to be there in some way, but I would also argue that
Agreed.
chicken and waffles is fine as a brunch entree, right? Like I will eat that any time of day, not gonna lie, and it's mainly because it's covered in syrup. Like there's really no other reason. It's just a carrier for maple syrup. I'm just gonna be honest with everybody. I might have a problem, but um, I think that eggs need to be a part of brunch, but to me, the brunch needs a savory components as well. When I say savory, it needs lunch stuff. It needs some sort of meat entree or some sort of different
Yeah.
protein or some sort of vegetable or salad or something like that.
You were talking about a breakfast burger a little while ago, and you mentioned like using donuts as your bread and stuff
Yeah.
like that. What's your take on
Yeah.
that?
I mean, I've had it. There's a couple of places around that offer it. They'll tout it as like a hangover cure, or it kind of has like a cute, kitschy, fun name. I don't, Krispy Kreme's not my favorite donut. I think they're good for what they are, but it's like we said, it's just sometimes your taste buds change as you grow, and it can just be too sweet at some point. And that's not to say I haven't polished off like an insane amount of Krispy Kreme donuts in one sitting. But for me, I'm like, I would rather see something a little bit less sweet, but more on the homemade side. So like if it was going to be like a breakfast or brunch style burger, I would want like a brioche French toast bun.
I honestly I've tried it once where the donuts are like your bread, and I did not like it one bit. There was a point in time in San Antonio where chefs were doing the conchas for like their hamburgers. I tried that once, and I thought it was just awful. I did not like it. I don't approve of it. I'm all for like a savory, like a brioche, that sweetness component to it. I think adding like some sort of jam or whether it's a smear in your burger or off to the side, I think that's appropriate. I don't know. That's just my thought process, and I know I'm probably going to upset a few people by saying that, but I don't think that you should use donuts as for your burgers. No, don't do it.
Well, there is a local bakery here that's doing concha, but like in a savory way. So without the icing on top. So I guess it just comes down to the type of dough, and they're treating it like a croissant for breakfast pastries. And I think it turns out really well, but I wouldn't want like the pink sugared concha with like a burger patty. Like that just sounds terrible.
Yeah, and like I said, that was a trend for a little bit in San Antonio, and everyone started doing it. And I just thought, this is awful. No, I can't do it.
All right, so
I'm also not a big concha person.
Oh, well, I mean, I guess to start with, you've got to like each component pretty well. So talking about breakfast pastries that could be featured at brunch, like if you're not a huge fan of conchas, like do you like other kinds of pan dulce?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think growing up, I would see the conchas and I would just automatically assume sweet, like a ton of sugar sweet. And it was never like you get a nice balance of like the anise and a little bit of sugar and the cinnamon, all that kind of stuff. So it always threw me off. But like I can definitely do like some of the other like the jelly donuts and croissants, and I can do all that kind of stuff. I usually don't because I'd rather get full off of like eggs and bacon and stuff like that personally,
Right. Any best brunch you've ever had, like eating out or going out somewhere to eat?
There's so many good places. It's hard to pick just one,
Or maybe most memorable?
You know what? Okay, so there used to be a chain. Well, I don't know if they're still around anymore, but like before I moved out to West Texas, I would I would always enjoy going to like Max's Wine Dive, and
Yes.
they
I
always
actually used to work there.
did you really?
Yes.
I actually really liked them. I know they're a chain or whatever, but they put out some banging brunches. I remember they had this one, it was called like the Elvis, where it was like the peanut butter and banana
Mhm.
like pancakes and stuff. And oh, I loved it so much. It was so good, and then they did away with it and they wouldn't bring it back. So, that part kind of sucked. But I mean, anytime I go for brunch, I always look at their menu, and the first thing I look at is their Benedicts. And
Mhm.
some of them sound really good, some of them don't. And you're always afraid, okay, this is a gamble. Is it going to be a really terrible hollandaise? Uh, because to me, a sauce makes or breaks an entire dish, or is this going to be like legit? And it's usually always the same. Very rarely do I ever have one that sucks, but there have been instances.
I feel the same way about eggs Benedict. I feel like it's always kind of a gamble, and mainly it's because, I like English muffins okay, but sometimes if you're getting it in a Benedict,
Hmm.
it can be a little bit tough and chewy on the bottom. It just depends on how they're holding it, if they're
Yeah.
toasting it to order. Like I had decent eggs Benedict on a Carnival cruise that I was on recently. And surprisingly, the
Uh-huh.
bread stayed soft and the eggs stayed runny on the inside. But people do make some crazy
Yeah.
Benedicts, right? Like I've seen like Italian Benedicts, like salami and pepperoni, and then the
Hmm.
hollandaise isn't really a hollandaise, or they put pesto in it. And you have to hit me at just the right time, and I got to be in the mood for such things, because otherwise I just want something
Yeah.
that's kind of traditional. But I have seen some really great ones out there, like a cream cheese hollandaise with like smoked salmon and like dill and capers type, application.
Yeah.
Or
Circling back to your Carnival cruise experience, I listened to that episode. And it was awesome. It reminded me of when
thank
I
you.
was on there. And every time I go on a cruise, you just have to time it just right to get like the freshest Benedicts, because then it sits out for a little bit. Then the sauce like kind of dries up and thickens and all that. But
Right.
that's the one thing I always go for whenever I'm on a cruise.
Yeah.
I'm also a
Well,
big
it's
fan
one
of
of
like when people do a crab cake Benedict. What's that?
I like that with like crab cakes as the bread, you mean?
Well, I still enjoy the English muffin, and then I like a good crispy crab cake where it's crispy on the outside and then real soft in the center, with your poached egg, with your hollandaise, and all that stuff. So as far as a crab cake Benedict, it's a hard thing to pull off because a lot of places when they make their crab cakes, they're just mushy. They don't sear it just right. So it's like I said, there's no crust, it's mushy, and there's no because with like a poached egg, you don't really get like a texture out of it. So a lot of places can mess them up so easily.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. Like I am a fan of a really pillowy, soft poached egg. And a lot of times it can just turn into a rubber ball if you're not careful. And if it sits too long, like depending on
Hmm.
where you're eating it, that yolk can get kind of grainy, kind of pasty. And then an important thing for
Yes.
everybody to remember, right, is that hollandaise is never meant to be held for a long period of time anyway. So it's really dicey getting anything
Hmm.
with that on top on a buffet. But as far as the crab cakes are concerned, like I've seen this both ways, right? Like I've seen the Benedict is made with crab cake as the meat, so instead of the Canadian bacon on top of the English muffin. And then I've also seen it as like, no, this is actually acting as the English muffin. Now we're putting poached eggs and hollandaise on top. So um, I think I prefer it that way, but I'm
Yeah.
totally on board with what you're saying about the crab cakes. And honestly, it's a real gamble every single time. Um,
Mhm.
but so for anybody that doesn't know, a traditional eggs Benedict is typically English muffins split open, Canadian bacon, poached eggs, and hollandaise sauce. Um, I've seen a lot of variations that have worked and that have not. And then, but when we're talking
Yeah.
about like what brunch actually is, so I worked for Max's Wine Dive in Austin for just a little while. At Max's, they had the bottomless champagne and fried chicken brunch. And part of me
Mhm.
wants to go like, how do you actually make that brunch, right? So then you have gravy and then you add a biscuit and you're like, oh, all of a sudden now it's brunch because there's breakfast food there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
Are you a biscuit and gravy type of person for brunch?
100%. I don't have it at every brunch,
like
but
it too.
I like biscuits and gravy a lot.
Me too. Yeah.
So I honestly don't think I ever met a carb and starch combination that I didn't love automatically. So
I like it because I can eat it until I'm sick, but it's the same thing with like, it as it settles in your stomach, you just get more and more lethargic. So you better pray that you have nothing else to do that day other than take a nap.
yeah, it's definitely need a nap after this. Now, however, have you ever tried the Southern biscuits and chocolate gravy?
No, can't say I have.
No, it's an experience if you've never had it. I didn't grow up that way because I'll continue to argue that Dallas is not as much part of the South as it would like to be. And so there's a lot of deep Southern tradition that kind of misses us here. But yes, chocolate gravy on biscuits. It's really tasty. It's just kind of like a pan sauce / hot fudge type situation.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there's a way to make it good,
Yeah.
but I'm just so used to like the traditional savory.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Do you think regular pancakes could be brunch on their own, or do you think that they need to be elevated in some kind of way to be considered brunch?
I think they need to be elevated, whether it's some sort of like, because you can't do just like pancakes and syrup. You can't do that. Like you have to have like some sort of toasted pecan, some sort of like flavored syrup. You got to have something to go with it to add a little more oomph to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly feel like because brunch is combining two meals, my expectations of it are that it needs to be a little bit special. So this can't just be eggs, bacon, pancakes, especially if I'm going to have to skip a whole other meal. I mean, let's face it, like I'm not going to whittle away to nothing anytime soon. I think I've got plenty of padding to get through any winter. So skipping a meal is probably not going to it's probably not going to kill me, but if brunch is going to be an event, then I want it to be super special and super nice. So yeah, fruit fillings, cream cheese swirls, right? Like your sweet potato pancakes, your coffee pancakes, I'm a really big fan of cornmeal in a pancake. Have you ever gone that direction?
I don't think I have, but it sounds good.
I like it a lot.
I'd be up for it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And where are you in the pancake versus waffle debate?
I'm a waffle person personally, but pancakes don't suck either. I'll eat them both.
I am never going to turn down a carbohydrate.
Yeah, I like the crunchy and the crispiness of a waffle, which is why I like the waffles. But pancakes, like I said, pancakes are legit too. So it doesn't really matter. Give them both to me. I'll eat them both in the same sitting.
Any memorable pancake brunch preparations that you've had, or any memorable pancake brunch preparations that you've made?
Like I was telling you a little while ago at Max's Wine Dive, they had that Elvis one, which they were giant fluffy pancakes with peanut butter, banana, and a little syrup, and that was the bomb.
Is that your favorite?
Was one of my favorites. Oh yeah, but if I'm making them at home, which I rarely do now, I always have to find a way to, really make it as unhealthy as possible, where I'm either frying my pancakes up with a little bacon grease that I had left over. I'll add some cream cheese to the batter. I'll add like toasted nuts or like candied nuts and things like that. I'll add all sorts of stuff to it just because I guess like my inner fat kid just is screaming like, you got to add this. It's brunch, bro. Come on.
Right. I'm a huge fan of like a sweet potato pancake, for example.
Those are good too.
Yeah, I really like those a lot. There is a place in Austin called Magnolia Cafe that has a gingerbread pancake, and every batch of the batter starts with coffee. You really can't go wrong with them. They're so good. They're so good. But yeah, fruit, filling, all that kind of stuff, anything that you can do. Now, what about on the waffle side? Anything special there?
I mean, basically the same thing. You're just throwing it all into a waffle iron. That's all it is. I'll throw in as much stuff as possible as well, just because I know you can make it a little bit heartier. You can make it a little bit savory. You can add stuff into the batter to give it that little bit of sweetness. Let me take a step back. I don't add fresh fruit to my batters, but I don't mind making a compote to go on top of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's it's a little bit risky in a waffle, right? Like if you want to just stud the waffle with fresh strawberries, you're running the risk of it, juicing out inside the waffle iron and making it stick.
Yeah.
Exactly. But pancakes are a little bit easier, right? Because you can just drop the fresh or frozen blueberries into the top side before you flip it over, and the batter will close in around it. So you're not going to make a mess on everything. But yeah, I love like a really good quick compote, or like just a really good, like really simple jam with nothing in it, right? Like where you're just cooking the fruit down and letting the natural pectin thicken it up. I'm a huge fan of that. So
yeah.
What about?
Are you a big syrup person?
Oh, any form, any fashion, any flavor. I like it. All the way to the fake stuff that's butter flavored, all the way to the, grade A, super expensive, very, very like legit maple syrup.
Do you put a lot of syrup on there? Like, is it drowning in syrup or just a little bit?
No, it's drowning. It's drowning to the point where a pancake or a waffle has become like an absorbent sponge. That's how bad it is.
I can add just a little bit. Like I like to taste the savory of the pancake more than the sweetness of the syrup. So that's why I add just enough to where you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Whatever. Do you dip your bacon in the syrup?
No, I really don't.
Why not?
I just don't. I don't know. I should though. I really should. There's a place here in Midland that does like it's like the pancake. No, they do chicken fried bacon, but I also like when people put bacon in their pancake batter then cook it that way. I like that too.
Oh, I love that. I love adding bacon to a pancake or waffle batter because it's that salty and sweet that I'm constantly chasing, and B, it's the texture, the little crunchies. I love that so much.
Yep.
What about French toast?
French toast is awesome. I love French toast. I don't eat it that often, but when I do, I like doing that with a little bit of like citrus in like my batter. So it definitely makes it pop. It brightens the French toast up just a little bit. And I like it to where it forms a custard, but it's not mush. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, I kind of hate like a soggy French toast, but I'm a really big fan of using French toast with something else savory, right? Like I love those crazy French toasts that are like breaded with breakfast cereal. I love that stuff where there's something crunchy on the outside. I really dig it. Or the stuffed ones that's like cream cheese and strawberries like on the inside. And I love like challah bread or brioche, but I also like those brunch items where it's like they've made a Monte Cristo with French toast as the bread and it's like ham and cheese and eggs on the inside. Like I'm totally all over that.
That does sound awesome. Yeah.
All over
What about like French toast, dipping cinnamon rolls in your French toast batter?
Yes.
Yeah, I like when places do that too.
Yeah.
They make me happy.
Where do I sign up?
But if you're lucky, you find a spot that does that from time to time. But it's got to be like a brunch spot, like not just any place does it.
Yeah.
You're lucky when you find all that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's a lot of things to be said about, is this worth my time and the money? Because brunch is usually a little bit more expensive too. And then if you're having a mimosa or a Bloody Mary, and then you're out, $50. Like, it can't just be eggs. That's kind of my argument here. It's got to be really special.
Yeah. So are you a mimosa or Bloody Mary person?
So unfortunately, neither. I will spring for one or the other occasionally, but I'm old now, and tomato juice and orange juice give me heartburn. So usually it's going to be a lighter cocktail, like something that has Saint Germain or maybe gin, just depending on the time of year. And then otherwise, I've been known to have beer with brunch. Like, I'm not mad at that if it's late enough in the day.
Yeah.
What about you?
I do it all. I'll do wine, I'll do mimosas, I'll do Bloody Marys. Not all in the same sitting. I pick one and I stick with it. You know what I'm saying? I just don't like to mix mimosas and Bloody Marys in the same sitting.
No, I usually wouldn't. But I like a cranberry juice and prosecco. Also, is just kind of a different approach to that.
I can see that. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a poinsettia, really, like a cranberry juice and champagne. We do that for Christmas sometimes, but as far as brunch food is concerned, you were talking about hash. I'm a huge skillet fan because I love to put a fried egg on top of anything. So if they're doing it for me, I'm like, oh, that's half the battle right there. Yeah.
Right.
It's like hash, potatoes, asparagus, broccoli. I've had them with salmon. The next thing somebody needs to do is make breakfast lasagna, I think, and I would just have it made like a skillet with like breakfasty flavoring, or actually just like regular lasagna, but I want scrambled eggs on top of it. That's what I want.
That sounds very interesting. I don't know if I would try it. Yeah, who am I kidding? I'd try that.
I'm going to put that in my dream brunch category because I'm going to pay somebody a lot of money one day to serve that to me. That's what I want. Just put eggs on top of the spaghetti already and bake it. That's what I want. So I
do like the fried egg on pizza though.
Really? Oh, it's so good.
Fried egg on pizzas. Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. Like a nice, well, I don't know what kind of pizza you like the egg on, but I like a nice prosciutto and arugula with like a soft egg right in the middle, or ricotta. Oh man.
Oh, even if it's leftover cheese pizza with a fried egg on top, it's legit.
It's so good. I can't remember. You said that you're not like the big fried egg on enchiladas guy, right?
I will do it, but it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because I like fried eggs on almost everything,
Yeah, me too. I will put fried eggs in a lot of places where they don't belong because to me, that's comforting, actually. Yeah. I love something about an egg I can't get past. But what about omelets? How do you feel about those?
I love omelets. I love when they feature like goat cheese and arugula. I love when people are willing to do like seafood in omelets, like crab and shrimp and stuff like that. Those are amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I get kind of picky about cheese with seafood. Sometimes it can be a little bit off-putting, but I think if you're doing it in the right way, like I had a crawfish omelet once, which was just incredible. I definitely think there are those destination brunch restaurants out there, like you mentioned, right? Max's Wine Dive is definitely one of those. We have a place here that's the original House of Pancakes, and I feel like they have some really amazing pancake options, but they also have really great savory options that you can put with the pork chops and steak and all the different breakfast meats and everything else. But yeah, for me, brunch has to have all the sweet and savory components, or I'm like, or this is just breakfast that I was too lazy to wake up for.
I mean, you could throw quite a bit into an omelet. I also like to add hollandaise to my omelet, so I throw egg sauce on my eggs, and I think it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. So when you're making hollandaise at home, are you doing it the old-fashioned way, or you have a trick?
What I like to do is I'll get my butter nice and hot, not like just before it starts to burn, and I'll throw everything into my blender, and I'll just turn it on high speed, and it emulsifies itself pretty well,
Yeah, I like using a blender for that a lot. And I also will clarify my butter in the microwave because it's super fast.
I usually don't clarify my butter just because, I mean, it's all going to look, nice and saucy anyway. So to me, there's no point. But that is, that's also a step of care and love, So yeah, well played.
Well, don't give me that much credit. A, it keeps me from cleaning a pot or a pan on the stove. B, I don't have to watch it. And then C, I'm not going through the entire, like, we're not talking cheesecloth here, or I'm not really skimming it. But if you microwave it far enough, the milk solids will just fall to the bottom because they're naturally heavier anyway. And then I'm just pouring most of that liquid gold off the top. It's just really the ultimate shortcut.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I don't think once I learned how to do hollandaise like without having to have the double boiler and all that stuff. I mean, I love it. I loved making it. I was always afraid of making it when I first learned about it, only because you got to wait, it might break. So now it's like, no, let's just do it in the blender. It's fast, it's easy, and it always works. And if you break it, you can always just add another egg yolk, and then it'll come back together most of the time.
yeah, you can add an egg yolk, and one of the other things I like to do is add an ice cube. 9 times out of 10, that'll bring it back.
Really?
Yeah, really. It works for vinaigrette too.
Nice.
Vinaigrette, mayonnaise, aioli. If you get a little cocky and you've blended it for too long, or the blades are getting hot, or you added the oil too fast, sometimes you can, if you're quick acting, you can bring it back. What about chicken and waffles? Where do you stand on this for brunch?
Yes, please.
Do you have any things that you're particular about? Like, do you want bone-in chicken? Is it chicken tenders? Like, what are you doing here?
I like the chicken tenders personally. I don't mind if it's bone in. I prefer like a chicken wing over my waffles. But to me, like bone in chicken is as delicious and as awesome as it is. It's a little extra work that I don't want to do and get my hands dirty just a little bit more than I have to. So that's why I prefer like the chicken tenders, because you can still make a really good chicken tender. And, even though you don't have that bone for flavor, and it'll always complement that waffle too. And you also have to have a really good waffle, which it's hard to mess up, but it's still possible.
It is possible to mess up a waffle. So RIP to my waffle maker. It's actually just a couple of weeks ago. I have been trying some new waffle recipes. A thing I saw on TikTok that I was trying, but the first 6 waffles were really amazing. And the 7th one broke the thing because it stuck so bad that I couldn't get it off without scraping off with a fork. And then I scratched it, and then every waffle afterwards stuck. No. So rest in peace to my waffle maker.
You know what I like to throw in the waffle maker is mac and cheese.
Oh, man. Oh, yes. I like making cornbread waffles and putting chili on top of them. And an egg.
Good idea.
And an egg.
Try that soon.
There's a lot of content out there in the Willet waffle world, right? Like there are a lot of things being put into miniature waffle makers, and I am here for it. Because waffles are food with pockets, and I like pockets.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, I love that. But as far as the chicken and waffles go, for me, I got to have butter, maple syrup, powdered sugar, and hot sauce. That's what I want.
Okay, I can see all that. I can totally see all that.
Yeah, I it's that salty sweet thing that I'm always gonna chase afterward. And either I'm a genius or something's wrong with me. I don't know if there's anything in between. But
you know what? I would imagine if you were to do like a hot sauce and syrup combo to go, like instead of having like all the or is that what you're usually having?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, usually I don't mix them together beforehand, but if I've ordered it somewhere, like for example, and this is going to sound absolutely crazy, but the State Fair of Texas in the main food hall has incredible chicken and waffles, and it's a wing and a thigh, like you had mentioned. The waffle is a super thick Belgian style waffle, and it comes with hot sauce and syrup. And that's probably what influenced me liking it, because I have been ordering that there for a long time.
I am speaking of the State Fair, I am actually going to try to figure out when we can go and it's going to be in the middle of the week where it's hopefully a little less crowded.
Sure.
And I'm excited to finally go check out the state fair. I've never been to one.
Well, I make it my mission to eat my way through it every year. So yes, more to come on that. If you need any tips, I got them.
Nice.
All right. So blintzes. How do you feel about blintzes?
I like those too. I don't know what it is about them. Maybe it's because it's usually just like cream cheese all wrapped up in a lovely, delicious crepe and all that. They make me happy.
Yeah, sometimes cream cheese, sometimes sweetened cottage cheese. These things are amazing. Every single time I ever worked at for a hotel banquet, we would have these cheese blintzes and we would cover them with a fruit compote of some kind. And I know I've eaten an ungodly amount of them in my lifetime, and they are so good. What about crepes? Do you want sweet or savory?
I like the slightly sweet crepes. Savory crepes are awesome as well, but I always like a little bit of sweetness to it.
Yeah, I'm very much in the camp of I want a crepe with like Nutella and bananas and peanut butter on the inside. That's what I want.
Yeah. Whenever I do it that way, I have to make sure that my crepe batter is not sweet at all. So that way, when you add all that sweetness to it, it complements very well.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's a local spot here, Cafe Brazil. They do like a chorizo and avocado crepes, and they have like a chipotle cream sauce on it. Those things are ridiculous, but that's really the only place that I've enjoyed like savory crepes. Everywhere else has usually been at a street vendor, and it's always sweet and covered in whipped cream and everything else.
Yeah. There used to be a spot in San Antonio that did sweet and savory crepes. I can't remember what it was called to save my life right now. And it was also owned by a WWE wrestler. Again, I can't remember his name to save my life right now because this was like 20 years ago.
Sure.
And they made some delicious, delicious crepes. They would throw like noodles and stuff into them, and they were always so good.
That sounds incredible. I'm intrigued by this.
I would look it up.
Yeah, if you figure it out before the episode's over, let us know, because that just sounds ridiculous. I think we can't have an episode about brunch without discussing the great millennial food item that is avocado toast. Yes or no?
I like avocado toast, but I like to add steak bites to it because for me, those are just amazing.
Okay, what kind of steak bites?
So a lot of the times it would be like just ribeye. You kind of large dice that up, and then I like to air fry it when I'm at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course you have like that little bit of butter over the top to go over like with your avocado, your toast, and all that stuff. So you have like a few different textures, and to me that's just good. Avocado toast, even if it's just avocado and toast, that's still good too.
Do you do egg on yours or no?
I haven't, but I should.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty standard in a lot of restaurants around here. When I'm making avocado toast at home, I like a little red chili flake, either goat or ricotta cheese, and then sometimes like sliced radishes or fresh herbs or like really thinly sliced onions. I kind of, that's one of those things that I see kind of as a blank slate as well. So there's a lot of things that I have put on avocado toast. But in doing the research for this episode, I actually learned that avocado on toast or flatbread really got popular in Chile in 1926 when it was officially featured in a cookbook called the Manual de Cocina, or the Kitchen Manual.
That sounds interesting. I would have never thought that it had such a deep history, you know?
Yeah, I had no idea. It actually also got popular in San Francisco around 1885. So, who knew?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is, I always appreciate a good history lesson.
Well, whether you wanted it or not, there you have it. But, yeah.
Exactly.
You're gonna get it on this podcast because I am a food history fanatic. What about bagels? Got any favorites there?
I just like a plain and simple bagel with lox and cream cheese. I don't really go all out when it comes to bagels. because I think they stand out amazing just on their own.
So like a plain bagel, everything, poppy seed. What are we talking about?
I do like the everything bagel. I could even do a plain bagel, just a plain simple bagel with cream cheese. I think that's good too.
Yeah. So obviously everything bagel and everything bagel seasoning is definitely having its season, right? For like it's having its moment for at least the last 4 or 5 years. Like it's everywhere and on everything. I like to always mix savory and sweet. So I will usually have, this is going to sound crazy, but that's fine. I'll usually have an everything bagel with like chive and scallion cream cheese and then some sort of fruit jam on the other side and put it together. So
interesting.
Like I told you, it's a sickness. It's salty and sweet all the time.
You're just trying to balance flavors every chance you get, aren't you?
Every time. I think that's the dopamine that I am chasing all the time is what flavors can I put together? What about brunch salads? How do you feel about this?
I could do a brunch salad. I do like it just a little bit wilted, if you will. So like if I'm doing, let's just say like if it's like a steak or a chicken salad, like I want that protein to be hot and I want it to slightly wilt all my greens.
So do you consider that brunch if it doesn't have an egg on it?
I think so. I think we could consider that brunch.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just a combination of breakfast and lunch, right? We looked at all these dictionary definitions and the history. If it's just a meal that you're eating later and you're combining the two meals, yeah, I don't think it has to have an egg on there. But,
yeah, I mean, and even if it does, like, it doesn't have to be a poached egg. Even if it's like a hard-boiled egg, I'd still be okay with that too.
Yeah, there is something magical about putting a poached egg on a salad and letting the yolk be part of the dressing.
Yeah, most definitely.
Any international brunch favorites for you? Anything that the listeners might not be familiar with, or is there anything crazy that you see where you are for brunch?
Nothing too crazy for what I see in my area. A lot of it's usually just like the eggs Benedict, the French toast, the waffles, and things like that. I am more of a creature of habit when it comes to brunch because as even though I'd like to be very adventurous, I tend not to be because I know what I want and what I like, and so I just gravitate towards that.
Yeah. No, I think it totally makes sense. I think that's one of the things that makes brunch so inviting as a whole is that it, on some level, is, it's the chance to catch up. It's a slower meal. There's less pressure, and it has some familiar favorites from both breakfast and lunch. And I think that's what really makes it special.
We touched on our favorites. We touched on cocktails. Any kind of sides? Like, do you ever do like shrimp and grits or anything like that for brunch?
Oh, I adore shrimp and grits. I think I always look at it as an entree. But for side dishes for brunch, I like grits are fine on their own. I think I might have mentioned it on the pod before, but grits are gritty. It's in the name. So I've got to be I've got to be in the mood for them. It might make me a bad Southerner, but I really have to be in the mood for them. But I love doing things like polenta for brunch, right? Like flavored polenta or like a polenta cake or a jalapeno cheddar grit or something savory like that. I also like, you mentioned hash earlier. I think hash makes a good side dish or entree. It depends on what you put in there.
Yeah, most definitely. Oh, so so going back to that wrestler.
Yeah.
He had a crepe place. His name was Funaki. He was, I think, Japanese, and it was like a Japanese crepe spot. I still can't remember, and Google's not helping me find out what the name of the restaurant was. But
I'm sorry to hear that. What makes
that place was pretty cool. It was open for a few years and it just went out of business,
Well, crepes being decidedly French, I wonder what made them Japanese in that context.
Oh, because they would always add like their noodles, they would just put it was like a French Japanese fusion. That's what it was.
That sounds amazing. I'm sad that I will never get to try that.
I took my parents there one time when they were visiting me in San Antonio, and my dad I think he's still a big wrestling fan. So I told him, hey, Dad, this place, it's owned by the wrestler Funaki. And my dad was just so excited. And of course, the entire time he's looking around for him. And I had to break it to him, like, he's not here, Dad. Like, it's his family that is running it, you know?
Right.
How they ended up in San Antonio, couldn't tell you. But their food was awesome.
That's insane. It sounds so interesting, though. But I love, it kind of goes back to San Antonio, right? You can find a little bit of everything there, truly.
Yeah.
Do you ever do dim sum for brunch?
I absolutely adore dim sum for brunch. There's a place in San Antonio called Golden Walk. And on Saturday morning and Sunday morning, they just do all their delicious dim sum brought out in the carts. And, I can just eat myself sick there, and I love it.
Yeah, I the availability of all the different not American breakfast items at brunch really leads me to believe that it's just the time of day that you eat it that makes it brunch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it puts a smile on your face, it puts a smile on your company's face. It's like I said in the very beginning of this episode, it's an experience. It just makes it that much more special.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So the lightning round, worst brunch you've ever had?
You're putting me on the spot. I can't remember. I will not speak negatively about brunch experiences. That is blasphemy.
Okay, got it.
I don't care if I have to wait an hour or two for my meal, as I will not trash any brunch.
Would you do barbecue for brunch?
Oh, maybe like a barbecue hash. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. But like brisket egg tacos.
I've done it before. Brisket egg tacos don't suck. They're good. But it's got to be like brisket, egg, and potato taco.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
I don't know. It's just the total package. Like you get like a good, soft scrambled egg, and then you got like your potatoes nice and crispy, and then you have your hearty brisket. Makes for a good time.
Oh yeah. I mean, so if you're going to put soft scrambled eggs inside a tortilla, I think that potatoes makes total sense because you got to have something to stand up to it.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But if you're just, well, if you're just having scrambled eggs, I was just going to say like hard scramble or soft. Is that your preference?
I don't mind a hard scrambled egg, but if it's too hard, it turns brown and it just kind of tastes, not too good. So
yeah.
I'm kind of like in the middle. I'll soft scramble my eggs and then I'll leave them in the pan to firm up a little bit further.
Right.
After I turn the heat off.
Right. So it's like medium, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's a thing.
It is now. I mean, it is. It is if you say it is, right? It's your eggs. Yeah. I think that typically if I'm eating eggs, I like them fried. It's usually over easy. There are a few instances where I'm in the mood for sunny side up. But if it's sunny side up, it's because I've put it on top of something else. And 9 times out of 10, it's somewhere where it doesn't belong. It's like chili cheese fries with an egg on top, or enchiladas with an egg on top, or mac and cheese with an egg on top, or leftover Chinese food with an egg on top, So.
That all sounds pretty good. Even the enchilada with a fried egg. As much as I'm not into it, I'm into it. I'm buying it.
I can't help myself. Maybe it's a phase of life, and maybe 2 years from now I'll be like, no, I don't want eggs on top of anything, but I'm going to enjoy the ride while it lasts. I think the final verdict is brunch is the time that you eat it, not necessarily the food. If you disagree, have any questions, comments, concerns, won't you sound off on the social media? That's the Food for Thoughtcast on Facebook, Food for Thoughtcast on Instagram, or you can email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com. Let us know what we missed. Tell us about your favorites. We want to hear it. Steve, where can we find you on all the online spaces?
Find me on the Facebook with Chef Steven Gonzalez. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok with Chef Stegons, or just go to chefstevengonzalez.com and talk some food.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. That's a wrap for today. Until the next episode of the Food for Thoughtcast, make good food, eat good food, share it, and be kind to one another.
Thanks so much for listening today. You are part of what makes us special, and we are so glad you joined us. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Just like food, delicious podcasts are better when you share them with others. Come back for seconds wherever podcasts are served, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Food for Thoughtcast.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Food for Thoughtcast or at www.foodforthoughtcast.com, where you can link to all podcast players, or you can send us an email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com.